If you want to get more when cracking black walnuts, always soak them before you crack them. After nuts are cured and stored for a while, they become too dry to crack easily. The nuts will break and shatter into smaller, tough chunks of shells and small pieces of nut meat. You end up with a lot of tiny kernel bits and dust that are unharvestable, meaning you lose a lot of nut meat. To solve this, you need to saturate the nuts in water for an extended period of time to soften them up. Soak nuts in smaller batches. Decide on an amount that can be cracked within the next week or so. Put the nuts in a container and completely submerge them with plenty of water. Most nuts are ready to go after 12 to 24 hours of soaking. However, I have soaked some nuts up to 3 days before I was satisfied with their softness and flexibility. After soaking, lay out the nuts until they are dry to the touch and there are no visual wet spots on the shells. This is usually about 30 minutes with a fan. If nuts don't air dry easily, something is odd and it is likely no good. To demonstrate, I cracked a few very dry black walnuts without soaking them. They certainly took more force to crack, and they required a lot of cutting with the shears to get out the stuck nut meat, which can be frustrating and time-consuming. You can see how I ended up with a small pile of kernel bits with a bunch of nut meat and shell dust. I then cracked a few nuts that I had soaked for more than 48 hours. The results speak for themselves. Soaking nuts in water allows the shells and kernels of nut meat to absorb moisture again. The shell will crack easier as the shells bend and break smoothly with a lot less force. The soaked kernel becomes slightly rehydrated. This makes it more nimble and agile as it won't crumble easily when the shell is cracked. The soaked, springy nut meat is easy to remove, and it is more likely to come out in larger chunks, such as full quarters or even whole halves, not bits, pieces, and dust. You can see I had a large pile of big, chunky nut meat without much of a pile of tiny bits of kernels or nut meat and shell dust. Because the rehydration process softens the nut meat kernels to make them a bit stretchy and forgiving when cracking, their texture and taste is soft and chewy. Some people like that texture, some people do not. The simple step of using a food dehydrator will take out this moisture and the kernels will become crunchy again. The nut meat kernels will then have a delicious crunch and a snap when you break them. Dehydrating black walnut meats removes moisture, which helps extend their shelf life and prevent spoilage. Dehydrating at lower temperatures can also help preserve the nutritional value of the nuts, including their healthy fats, proteins, and other beneficial elements. When doing so, I typically go slow and low. That is, I dehydrate them for 10 hours at 167 degrees Fahrenheit. Dehydrated kernels can be stored in a jar, bag, or other storage container for a long period of time. I highly recommend this final step. This video was made for Grandpa's Goody Getter. Follow me on Instagram at BlackWalnutDaddy. Please use my discount code at checkout to get $10 off a Grandpa's Goody Getter Nutcracker.